The damage done after a war, whether it's civil, multi-state, national, or even international scope, is never little. They left not only ruined infrastructures, drastic changes in the economy, and trauma to those who must see or experience the site. Now, even if the nations may have had an apology towards those victimized, it will never change the impact done to them. It doesn't bring back the victims that were killed. It doesn't fix the broken homes and the stolen lands. And lastly, people may forgive, but they certainly never forget. And in this case of learning histories behind a war, it is rightfully done to not be falsified. Under the few reasons where I'll explain further in my arguments. Now, I would like to distinct the arguments between the opening and the closing government. Now, I will say that OG argue on how falsifying history will ensure the peace with those who are related, covering the truths by highlighting the main events on what had happened, telling stories on how this particular figure became the hero, the one who saved the nation and those in need, making people believe that by doing so that others will think the same way and assume that it did happen at the time. They will say that the urgency behind it is because when society then finds out the hidden truth behind what really happened realistically, it will disrupt the peace within the nation and makes it wholly chaotic. People will have multiple opinions or even corner a few parties into thinking the involvement or even the hidden plan behind the falsification. And if people find out, it will then lead towards the trust issue towards the government as well, which only widens the gap between both sides, and yet again, it will disrupt the peace. And what makes this opinion of theirs making it less better than us. Now, as things get advanced, more people would likely find out from various sources through the internet. Understanding it as a form of acknowledgement and a base into knowing on what had really happened will educate others into better thinking and opinionated. If we keep telling lies, then the worst case that may happen is that if there's a conflict within the nation, it will only end up worse. People only knowing the real truth will only disrupt the whole peace that had been protected before, and it will become a very messy war, which which can come from the people being betrayed within the lie that has been told towards them for years, and in the end it will end up worse. The reason why will be explained further into other of my arguments. And now, not only that, the 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 opening government only cares within protecting the peace, but they fail to protect those who are actually in it. In this case, the post-war societies. They forgot the fact about the importance of protecting them is that these people needs to be protected and to be heard, and in this case they need to be heard on what had happened but by letting people know the actual truth and to learn, and by them not let by them enforcing them not to do so would only limiting them to have their own freedom, which leads to our arguments onto three layers. First, we on three layers. First, which is obviously justice. We care for the victims' justice, unlike the government side. To think about how many children, women, elders, soldiers that are murdered, severely injured, living years and years of trauma that can't be undone. Post-war societies would have it hard if they are forced to rely on what had happened at those times, making it seem like they're not seen or heard for what they had gone through to this day. No amount of money and apologies could return on what had been lost. By enforcing them not to tell the truth is just the same as we're not respecting their own right to feel safe and appreciated, especially for being the eyewitness or even a survivor of the war. Second, it will lead to further conflict. The thing about people would eventually find out is that it can be sure that not all history books will tell the same stories or provide the same information that compared to what really happened. Some sources that hold the most or even almost accurate depiction at the time will still be out there, being in the hand of the responsible and gets the access, and it's not always hidden. So to say, if one day people eventually learn more and get to discover it, it will open a new mindset and the truth compared to the ones they have been told or taught about, which can lead to confusion and the different opinions between people. which only makes them start to feel skeptic towards the authorities themselves with the difference of information taken. And third, it will lead to manipulative enforcement. On a certain extent, especially if it's a big war, it's an extreme act of betrayal. Taking in the context of a figure who is always seen as the villain, the one who started it all and the most damaged, but with more books and documentaries from those who spoke up or exposed, it was then revealed that the villain isn't really the bad guy, and the fuel towards the certain war wasn't even started on their behalf but on others. Such twists like this could lead people into becoming more skeptical towards their own nation, into thinking on how manipulative and ignorant they are for covering the truth, making them feel unsafe, knowing how they blame the innocent and glorify the guilty. It is also pitiful to know that the history that has been believed for years, and it will be hard to try to tell the truth to those who do. Uh, and and by that, we can assure that how the truth hurts and it can be damaging. And talking about a nation scope, uh, by knowing the gruesome truth, it may lead to conflict. It is not unlikely to lead to a war or even a further damage. But why is it still be important for us to know, so that people can be more wise and aware, to they can become more educated into knowing on what has happened and open their mind more into realizing that their previous belief was nothing like the one that they just had discovered. And now in the end it has been done, and there's nothing we can do than to reflect and to become smart yet aware, so that it will prevent it from happening, which can only be done with a knowledgeable society, and brings justice to the post-war societies by letting them speaking their truth. And that is all for my arguments. I'm proud to oppose. Thank you.